This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. This is your host, Tim Link, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Invited back to our program, our good friend, the #1 New York Times bestselling author, one of the best thriller novelists out there, Mr. James Rollins. James is going to come on and talk to us about his latest book, The Demon Crown. So we want to talk to him a little bit about that, see how that fits into the rest of the Sigma Force series, and see about what's up with the characters that we know and love or hate so well, and maybe some new characters in there as well. So it's going to be an exciting time. Always great to talk about the latest book with James Rollins. So everybody, just hang tight. We're going to come back after these commercial breaks. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Hi, this is Tim Link, animal communicator and pet expert and host of Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Have you ever wanted to know what your pet is really thinking? Do you want to find out if they truly understand what you're trying to tell them? Ever wish you could build a better understanding and closer relationship with your pet? Well, now you can. Learning to Communicate with Animals is a 4-part on-demand workshop. In the workshop, you'll learn the essential techniques that are necessary to communicate with animals, including what is animal communication, breathing correctly to achieve the perfect state to communicate with your animals at a deeper level, using guided meditation exercises and method to communicate with animals, and how to send and receive information from your animals. So if you're wanting to learn how to communicate and connect with your animals at a deeper level, visit petliferadio.com/workshop and purchase and download Learning to Communicate with Animals. You'll be glad you did.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Join us now is our good friend, the #1 New York Times bestselling author, and in my opinion, probably the best suspense novelist out there, James Rollins. James, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, great to have you on board, and congratulations on the latest, The Demon Crown.
Appreciate that. Excited to see this debut.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about the book and maybe how it fits into the rest of the sensational Sigma Force series, and maybe how there's some departures and some new thrills in there.
Sure. Well, this story is number 13 in the series. Not that you have to read them in any order. I think no one's read my books in the proper order. I wish they would, but they don't, which is totally fine. But in this book, and to quote my editor, she describes it as my most frightening book to date, and I'm not about to argue with her. I think it is one of the scariest books I've ever written. But basically, the story starts out when a group of scientists, they travel to an island off the coast of Brazil, and they discover that all life on that island has been eradicated. It's gone. It's been consumed by a species that's beyond imagination, freaks them out. Before they can report their discovery, the scientists are all attacked and killed. But this one event sort of blows up into a global threat when the same species that was on that island is unleashed as a weapon across the Hawaiian Islands. And as people begin to die by the hundreds, it appears the only way to stop this from even spreading globally is to nuke those islands. But of course, my team of heroes, Sigma Force, is called in to try to discover the origin of the species, where it came from, and find a way to destroy it. But the species is a little stubborn little guy. It's changing, spreading, surviving every attempt to stop it. And but what's sort of frightening about this book, and I'm sort of hedging myself a little bit by not revealing what that threat exactly is, it's one of the threats that Homeland Security has classified as a prime danger against the U.S. This was the seed for this novel was I had read this list of concerns that Homeland Security has for the United States, and I was surprised to see this threat raised. And this threat basically is a biological threat, and it's one that concerns Homeland Security enough that I decided I better write a book about it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So it's a feel-good novel before Christmas, right?
Exactly. It takes place in Hawaii, so it's like a little Hawaiian vacation for readers. It's perfectly timed for Christmas, so that if you want that little winter holiday, the little beach vacation. And of course, it's a Sigma adventure. You're not going to get a lot of rest and relaxation during this trip, but hopefully it will, if nothing else, entertain.
There you go. Yeah. I was getting, I love seeing the islands, love seeing the different locations you go to. I was worried because Hawaii is obviously, along with probably everybody else, one of my all-time favorite places. So it's like I got to make sure Hawaii stays in place. So glad Sigma Force was on the scene. That's good. Well, tell us then a little bit about maybe some of the characters that we're familiar with from the past series, as well as maybe some new characters and what they bring to the table.
Sure. Well, Sigma Force, they're, for those that aren't familiar, they're a group of Special Forces soldiers that were drummed out of the service for various reasons. But because of special aptitudes or skills or intelligence, they're recruited in secret by DARPA, which is the Defense Department's Defense and Research and Development Wing. And so they're basically retrained in secret to be field agents for DARPA to protect our shores and various shores against various global threats. So in this, the usual team comes up to bat, but of course they need to recruit a few extra skilled individuals to help them. In this case, we find a Hawaiian fireman that sort of stumbles upon this adventure along with the members of Sigma Force that are called into play, and he gets sort of semi-recruited, so he's a great deal of fun. He's sort of almost a comic relief character in the book a little bit.
Good.
We also have a entomologist. You have the scientist on that team. It's an entomologist that works for the National Zoo that is called in to explore this new threat. And, of course, we've got the usual cast of characters. There's Commander Grayson Pierce, who's sort of the leader of the team. He's along with his usual cast of characters with Sigma Force. And there's a little bit of a little extra surprise for Gray in the fact that he finds out that his girlfriend may be pregnant. But I don't want to tell more than that, because that's one of the major elements of the story.
Oh, boy. Another twist and turn. So I'm envisioning you in we'll say it's your office. I won't say it's your deep dungeon or your treehouse retreat, whatever it may be. But you're sitting there and you're thinking about, okay, I've got this series and, it's 13th in the series. So I know I have to bring back some of the characters that people are going to be familiar with. Otherwise, my fan base will kill me. So I've got to do that. How do you go about planning the whole plot and the scenario, the locations and what the team's going to be doing this time compared to what they did last time?
Well, one of the, initially I resisted doing series. I didn't want to do a series. Our first stories were all individual adventures. It was only upon some pressure from my publishing house that I finally broke down and wrote a series, because I had this problem I call the Jessica Fletcher syndrome. You've all seen Murder, She Wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Fletcher, old
right.
woman, stumbling across dead bodies every week. I've never stumbled over a dead body, so I always had that sort of problem with series characters. Why is that one series character always getting into such mischief? Unless, of course, the last revelation of the last episode of Murder, She Wrote was that she was a serial killer and she's been framing everybody all along. That don't make sense. But so I resisted doing a series because of that problem. But I thought if I make a series based on a group rather than an individual, that can have a little more fun for several reasons. Number one, the threat can come from many different directions. But also I can, in different books, shine a spotlight on a different character and have them come to the forefront a little bit more and explore their background a little more intensely. And then the next book, shift that spotlight again. But what's even better is that, if you're watching Murder, She Wrote and somebody puts a gun against Jessica Fletcher's head, that trigger's never going to be pulled as much as you might want them to pull that trigger. It never gets pulled because it's going to be next week's episode. Whereas if I have a cast of characters, a group, no one's safe, because at this point, Sigma Force can always recruit a new member to replace somebody that does not survive one of my adventures. So I like the fact that I can maintain jeopardy. And unfortunately, I've done that occasionally where there's been some surprising deaths in this series, and I won't say if that is the case in this book.
There you go. And then how's your fan base respond to that? Do you get a mixed bag of, thank God you got rid of that guy or gal, or is it, oh, how dare you, James, doing that?
I would say it's about 80%, I'm never going to read you again, and about 20%, well, I guess that's okay. And I'm okay with that. I want that strong response, because it's if you're having that strong of a response, then I'm doing my job. I've bonded you with that character, so that if I do happen to have them not survive an adventure, I want it to hit home. So I want to basically maintain the sense that there is true jeopardy. We've all seen shows where the main hero seems like such a superhuman that they're almost unbelievable, and I like to try to make my characters as well-rounded as possible. Gray has been balancing his personal life and his professional life. He's been dealing in the past few books with aging parents, one who has Alzheimer's, and so he's got the global threat he must deal with, but at the same time he's, has his heartstrings being pulled by his family responsibilities. And us as individuals, we always are trying to balance our professional and personal lives. It's always sort of a juggling act. And I think when we see a character in one of my novels doing the same, we can relate better to them, so that if I do hang that character off a cliff, hopefully you're going to care whether they fall off that cliff.
It is amazing to me because especially when you're talking about a novel in a particular series, these characters become part of our cloth as fans. They're part of our family, and we look forward to opening up that book and seeing what they're up to.
And I do too. I mean, when I write the novel, it's always fun to revisit a character, especially if a character, one of the group has vanished for a couple books, to have them come, step back onto stage is as much a thrill for me. I've gone ahead and pulled characters from some of my individual standalone adventures because I liked them so much that I pulled them, from one of the old books and had them make an appearance in one of my Sigma books.
Yeah, that's great. It's almost like an appearance by Iron Man in a Marvel movie. Exactly. You never expected it. You always tease with my wife when we're watching a show, a drama in particular, and the main character is never going to get killed off, but for some reason he gets falls off a cliff, and I'm like, oh man, who are they going to get to replace him? I don't know. And of course she rolls her eyes like, you idiot, he's never going to. There's certain people you can kill off, and then other ones, you better not, unless you plan on just getting rid of the series.
Unless you're George R. R. Martin. And then you can wipe off your entire cast and start over again.
Yeah, that's right. Just start it all over again. Yeah, or if you're a horror writer, how many times has Michael or Chucky or somebody come back to life? So
that is true.
It works out well. All right. Well, listen, we're going to take a commercial break here real quick. We'll come back and talk to James Rollins a little bit more about the book, The Demon Crown, and also talk to him about his writing in general, pick his brain a little bit about how he's so successful in what he does and how he goes about doing his craft. So it's going to be great. So everybody hang tight. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
You think that you're rescuing them, but honestly, they're going to end up rescuing you. You don't know what they've gone through, and they're not going to be perfect. And they are so happy that you are taking a chance on them to be a part of your family. I urge you to go down to your local shelters, pounds, dog rescues, foundations, you name it, and rescue a dog. Once you get your rescue dog, you should definitely order some Dinovite. Go online and order it. DINOVITE.com. Dinovite. It's awesome stuff. 90 days of Dinovite will make your dog a happy dog. It will help them with their overall health. You don't need to spend thousands on vet bills. Dinovite is the best thing that's ever happened to my dogs, besides me, of course. Call 859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Continue our conversation with our good friend, the #1 New York Times bestselling author, James Rollins. James, when everybody picks up a copy of the book, The Demon Crown, and reads through it, with this book as well as the series or anything that you write, what do you hope they walk away from? I mean, what is it a certain feeling you hope they get, or is there some underlying message that you're trying to share to get people to wake up a little bit?
Well, definitely my primary goal is to entertain. I want you turning page late into the night. If somebody calls me or emails me and says, hey, I missed my morning meeting because I was up to the middle of the night reading your book, great, love that. But of course, to me, the better pat on the back is when someone says that some aspect of the story, whether it's the history, whether it's the science, whether it's one of the locations, whether it's the character. At the end of my book, I have a sort of what's true and what's not, where I pull aside the curtain and reveal how much of the book is real and how much it's not, and where some of this has come from. And so one of the greatest compliments I get is when someone says, hey, I was interested in that science you raised in that book, and so you had that reference at the end of your novel, and I went and did my own exploration into that subject matter. Because to me, that means the novel worked, not just as a popcorn entertainment, but when you've closed that book, it's had some resonance, it's had some effect. So my goal is to entertain, but also hopefully leave something behind. Something that my goal in my novels is sort of to expose my readers to the wonders of the world. I'm very much a naturalist. I have a veterinary background, so I introduce a lot of animals and a lot of different landscapes and raise concerns about whether it's climate change or whether it's environmental issues. In this book, a major part of the story deals with the Pacific garbage patch, this big sort of swirling garbage field that's in the middle of the Pacific. that play sort of a role in the story. So it allows me to have an adventure. It's great for cogs and wheels of an exciting little part of the story, but also it's exposing something that's going on in the real world about this situation in the Pacific.
Yeah, and I applaud you for that. I mean, it's always cool. That's one of the things, obviously, you're on Pet Life Radio, so we got to have an animal in there, and I know your background as a veterinarian comes into play as well. So it's like you get the best of both worlds here, a great novelist as well as someone who actually knows what they're talking about when it comes to animals.
Yeah, for this book, I wanted to, in the past, I've done point of view characters with dogs, with my Tucker, Wayne, and Kane, my military war dog. I wrote scenes from the dog's point of view, and in prior books, I wrote scenes from the point of view of a sign language speaking gorilla. In this book, I decided to go a little more creepy crawly. We're writing from the point of view of a sort of insidious wasp species and all the different incarnations of it, and so it was a great deal of fun trying to figure out a way to put my readers into the mindset. And not just the Disney version where my wasps break into song in the middle of the book. I wanted them to be authentic, so I talked to a bunch of entomologists and found out how do they experience the world, and what does it mean to have a swarm intelligence. And so I try to capture that in this book also to try to sort of give an idea of what it might be like to be such an insect.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always fascinating to see the different characters and how you bring the animal life to such a thrilling novel. Earlier, you were talking about blending in things from the Homeland Security as well as some of the hot topics of the day. When you go to write a novel, obviously, I'm assuming you're already in the works or have it mostly done, your next one. Coming out. So we'll talk about that next time around. But when you go into writing this, and is there certain topics and hot points that you're wanting to cover as far as getting a message out or something of this sort? And then how does the latest craze in this crazy world alter your original plan, alter your original thinking about, especially nowadays when things seem to be in constant turmoil in the world today?
And that is a challenge. I mean, whenever I'm constructing a novel, I'm always looking for three things. I'm looking for that historical mystery, a piece of history that maybe ends in a question mark, something I can solve within the pages of the novel. But I'm also looking for that bit of science that makes it go, what if? Try to see where that science is headed and see if I can't build a story around that. And then I'm looking for some location where I can crash those two things together, that history and that science together. But I always love to be as cutting edge as I can. I'm always trying to get that rip from the headline feeling with my novels. So I'm always talking to these experts, trying to get the newest and most up to date information I can when I'm constructing my novel, because I know that as fast as especially when it comes to science and technology, it changes so rapidly that I've had to alter books on the fly as I'm writing them. Is that I'm thinking this is where the current level of this technology is, or this is what people believe is true for this aspect of science. I'm writing the novel based on that, and as I'm halfway through the novel, information comes out that totally changes that. I mentioned before I wrote a book about a sign language speaking gorilla. In that book, I had a whole conversation between this scientist, this biologist, and another character about the fact that the U.S. at that time was the only Western power that was still doing research on great apes. And we didn't have a ban on great ape research, and other Western nations did. And so this whole sort of argument that occurs midway through the book, and then by the time I finished the book, the U.S. finally got on board and banned great apes research. So I had to go back and change that part of the novel to match what had changed. So I'm always having to keep I'm typing with one hand, and then I have my ear to the ground with my, as I'm trying to make sure that everything's staying current.
Yeah, and I can imagine that'd be pretty hard task to juggle, because there's certain messages you have to have or certain content that you want to put in your book that keeps the series in particular consistent and keeps the characters in the books in place. Then you got these, as any good novelist, you have these hidden messages, these little things you're wanting people to think about and give maybe their own research in. And then all of a sudden this hot topic comes across, and you got to put that in there because that sells books. And plus it's somewhat interesting, but it does. Yeah,
it is a juggling act for sure. I mean, it's trying to. And I've written 30. This is my 33rd book, by the way.
Wow!
And every time I get to the middle of the book, and I've got so many of these juggling balls in the air at this point that I'm not sure they're going to land where I want them to land, that I become convinced in the middle of the novel that I've lost all ability to write, that this book is a piece of crap, that I should just throw it away. And then I just sort of put my head down and crank through to the end, and then this was just fine. I don't know what I was worried about. Surely I won't do that again. Well, 33 times later, apparently that is my pattern, because I'm doomed right in the middle of the book to have this major panic attack.
Well, when you get in those situations, James, just use your hidden pin name. You can use my name. Just slap my name on the book. It'd be fine. I'll take the blame.
All right. Perfect.
Oh, goodness. Well, then tell everybody a little bit about what's going on. I know you got a nice tour coming up here, so maybe they can get out to a city near them to see you and meet you and pick your brain a little bit. Where can people find out more about the book, the tour, and everything you got going on?
Yeah, I'll be on tour for almost 3 weeks throughout almost the entire month of December, and you can find out, go to jamesrollins.com, my website. That's sort of my encyclopedia of knowledge about the books, and there's an appearance link. But you'll find me on Facebook and Twitter to an obnoxious extent, and all that's posted there too. If you want to find out where I'm at, that's the place to find out about the books, about myself, and about my dogs. Join me on Facebook.
There you go. So keep track of all your wonderful activities going on, and especially about your dogs. We got to keep track of what's going on with them. Anything fun, new, and exciting to share on the animal front, both on a personal level or anything you're seeing interesting or topical as in the industry?
Well, I've got my 2 Goldens here. They're actually at my feet right now looking at me like, Dad, you're supposed to be walking right now. But yeah, I mean, that's something that's always, I love to explore my novels, is what's new and exciting when it comes to the world of pets and animals. And I don't want to say too much because I have another book coming out next year, and it specifically deals with some major subjects with animals.
All right. We'll definitely get us on the calendar for that, because we definitely this is what we're all about. We love the novels, love the books, love learning, but at the end of the day, it's the furry, finned, and feathered friends that we're most concerned about here. So, well, it's good that your furry family's keeping you intact. I won't hold you too much longer on that front. One last thing, as far as any topics, you may not be able to share this because of the upcoming book, but any topics you're seeing from the veterinarian front or anything you're seeing from that side that people need to be aware of?
Well, I mean, I wrote an article for Costco magazine specifically about and this goes back to my veterinary days, because I would drill this into everybody during the holiday season. There's a huge number of holiday threats out there for our pets.
Right.
Whether it comes in, everybody's familiar with, how toxic chocolate is. But a lot of people aren't aware of how dangerous tinsel is to cats. As a veterinary practice, it seems like every single year I was having to remove tinsel from a cat's belly that forms a linear body obstruction. Cords. Everybody's plugging everything in. And again, almost every year I get 1 or 2 animals that have electrical burns in their mouths. So just, it's a wonderful season. It's a joyous season, but be mindful of those threats out there to our pets. Keep your veterinary telephone number handy. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I always tell people that too. In the work that I do, it's not only the little hazards they can get into and the feeding. Obviously, we overeat during the time, and we feel the need to share, and that's not always a good thing. Seldom is a good thing, we'll say. And then just keeping an eye on the pets. We get caught up in all of our traveling around, and as well as family members, friends coming over, and oftentimes we forget that fluffier spot. Yeah, so keep an eye on those pets during the holidays. All right, well, fantastic. Well, everybody go out and pick up a copy of the book. It's James Rollins' latest, greatest, The Demon Crown. We're excited about it. Congratulations again, James, for the book. Everybody go out and see him on tour. Follow him online. Follow him on the social media sites. You'll be glad you did. And we're excited to have you back on board, and you have a happy holiday.
You too. And hopefully I'll speak to you this time next year.
Yeah, look forward to it. All right, well, we're coming to the end of the show today. I want to thank everyone for listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. I want to thank our producers and sponsors for making this show possible. If you have any questions, comments, people you want to see on the show, anything that you want to share with us, you can always email us at petliferadio.com. Go to the website, email us, and we'll be glad to answer your questions and entertain your comments and try to bring on the people you want to hear from most. So until next time, write a great story about the animals in your life. Share it in a book, a magazine, an article, or on a blog, and who knows, you may be the next guest on Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Have a great day.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.